So, you know, currently, according to like the news outlets in Atlanta, they're talking about picking up two more rappers for like RICO cases. What are your thoughts and opinion on Young Thug and Gunna in their RICO case?
Well,
And
first of all, the two uh, allegations of filing charges, the statement comes from Fana Williams. That's the prosecutor that's prosecuting this case. She's a former prosecutor in the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta, to where this is her first time being a prosecutor, but this is the campaign she ran on to stop crime. So her statement was that we have pending uh, charges for other RICO charges. I would say that that's correct because it's coming from her and she's a public figure. So I would say that. But when you discussing Young Thug and I think his name Gunna, the RICO Act, I know about the RICO Act and what it takes and the elements to get charged with the RICO Act as opposed to the federal RICO Act. Up under the state RICO Act in Georgia, all you have to do is be considered a criminal street gang. That's usually youth between the ages of 12 and 24, and it's really no real broad definition on what a street gang is. But they also classify a street gang as a prison gang and an outlaw motorcycle gang. Because of their level of structure and sophistication, they will be tried up under the federal RICO Act because they're more organized than most youths are. So the feds look at when you say a state RICO Act that it doesn't rise to the level of a federal offense. So that indicates that it's local criminality because all youth that run more than three in a pack are considered up under law a gang, but they might be a skateboard. They might be a bicycle club, but they're considered gangs. But the only difference as a juvenile is that you're doing criminal activity, so that makes you a street gang. Now let's talk about what got Young Thug now a street statute, which is not nothing new. They just don't usually enforce it. Now up under the state RICO Act, you have to have three young men that in COSA did more than the act once. In other words, they did the act twice. And you have to have at least a 1 to 4 year investigation. But they wasn't crossing state lines doing what they were doing. They were doing local criminal street shit. See how this game go? They're not doing like the mafia and controlling government, elected officials, as a criminal enterprise, extorting the garment district, the factory workers, the mailmen. See, their level of sophistication is much higher, and their mentality as opposed to a 12 to 24-year-old youth. So the feds doesn't look at them or having the same structure as a criminal enterprise, and that must also be part of the element to where you must, when you say you're a criminal enterprise, that means you own real property, you're running business, not like YSL or whatever, Young Thug them crew that was fighting YB or whatever. Those are street gang mentalities. So once Young Thug them got indicted, everybody was wondering why they didn't get no bail, and they kept asking for it. But what happens when they unseal the indictment, because that means they had it 90 days, and in Georgia it's not like most states to where you go to court in 48 hours. They got set guidelines in most, probably 90% of the United States, but that's not how it goes. You have to have a bill of indictment to where they convene a jury, a grand panel that will decide if your charges hold merit to be tried on criminal charges. So that's called a bill of indictment. Now we just heard that Young Thug and them have more charges added on. But if you look at Cam Capone, I had stated that they're going to have more charges within 90 days because they're going to hold a grand jury investigation, and they're going to charge them for when they went to arrest them for RICO. They found also illegal guns there, as well as drugs and other things. They gave him new charges. So when you hear that he got more charges from the RICO statute, no, that's not true. From when they arrested him, then that's why people were saying why they didn't get a bail. Because now they have to hold another jury hearing, and you will have to go and they'll present the evidence, and they had up to 90 days, and they just unsealed the indictment, basically. So at the end of the day, I think there will be, I know there will be 2 more charges because I've worked with law enforcement on numerous homicides, and I've heard how they speak at the mic. Like, for instance, we had a murder of Marquise Prue, where a young 11-year-old boy was shot at St. Andrews Park and killed. And I had gave a town hall meeting with Christopher Darden and all. And the police at that hearing, without having a suspect, and you can Google the case of Marquise Prue, 11-year-old killed at St. Andrews Park. And the police said there, we're certain that we will catch the killer within the next 48 hours, or the suspect. They don't make statements like that and not back them up. So there's no real need. I believe that she will file charges because she's also the same prosecutor that filed charges on Clinton for voter fraud. People didn't know that because they don't research. So she's not new to the game, and she has a public and a vested interest in prosecuting Young Thug because of the fact that she knew the victim of the murder case, he got parents, and they asked for justice. Just like the parents of Charleston White are asking me for justice. That's what people of advocate for justice do. They speak for the voiceless. That's what she doing. Simple.
So let me ask you this. I know you mentioned this before, that you've done time in prison. Explain, share a story with us, something like one of your stories that led you to like going to prison. Like something, have you ever been to prison out of California?
Yeah, I was in prison in Georgia.
Let's hear that story.
I was in prison in Georgia hustling, doing credit card fraud, and I just told you earlier about even, that's in 2010, and what the story I told you about us getting money is 2000. So now it's 10 years later. Now you can follow along. I'm still doing credit cards. So now I'm in Georgia, and we at Gwinnett County, Mall of Georgia, some shit, real big. And I get into it to where the police don't put their gun at my head, even though my hands up, trying to play that good old boy shit. And I just told them, you're gonna have to pull the trigger. I'm leaving or arrest me. And subsequently, that minor offense turned into 7 deadly sins, where you can get life without parole. So I stayed 90 days, charged with 3 counts of attempted murder, and I ended up with 85 years. So I was sentenced to 85 years, and what helped me get out was that when they shot at me, my own attorney hid the tape to where they brought in something fake, and I knew it was a fake tape. And because of my ability to appeal what we was doing when I went to trial, I got the case dismissed. Then when I went to prison, it was so corrupt in the chain gang where you got to say hi to the horse. And that's a true story. As we was going to Jackson, where the death penalty box is, I met Brian Nichols, who was on death row for killing the judge, the bailiff, the prosecutor in Fulton County, which is the same jail that Gucci Man went to when he caught his case. That's in Atlanta. I've been through Fulton County, one of the most corrupt precincts as well as judicial system it is. So if Young Thug, with the money they got, they have a chance to buy their way out or get a lesser sentence. It depends on what's going on. And we hear a lot about those on that case, are they telling this, that's telling that. Unless they can give these law enforcement agencies and prosecutor some information that they're not pertinent to, like another murder that we didn't know about or something big. Ain't nothing they can really say that's going to be pertinent. So it's going to be a lot of plea bargaining, a lot of rumors about this and that. But like I say, I was at Jackson State Prison and I met Brian Nichols. But the first time I went there, I was with a young player, a Crip, because it's not fashionable to be a Crip in Georgia prison. You got Gangster Disciples, you got UBNs. Those are the major factions. We might have 10 Crips. But in Georgia prison, it's so corrupt, and they pay scale so low that say, like, this is a true story, what I'm telling. When I got there at the reception center, I learned that, say you from Fulton County, anybody working there as a police or in any capacity in there, they got to look out for you because the GDs are putting so much pressure. You could stab somebody in there, they ain't gonna take the suspect to the hole. They're gonna take the victim because they so poor they don't have the money to prosecute those stabbings. And I got an article and a video that I give you where they said Georgia prisons is the most violent in America, and it is. Because you can't lock your cell there because they don't pick all the locks. There's no cameras, no guns. It's just a madhouse. You get stabbed, you get took out on a gurney. So anyway, it was a police there that was working there, and she was from somewhere like Bakersfield. Then there was a counselor that worked there that was somewhere like Oakland. So I told him I'm from California, and I asked one of them, can you keep me off the transfer list? She said, yeah. And I asked the other one, can you start bringing me contraband? She said, yeah. So usually you only stay in Jackson 90 days because it's solitary confinement. I stayed a year in there. Went to every wing, E-wing, death row, the dorms, and so this and that. And then let me tell you another story that happened in there about this real shit. So now I'm getting cigarettes because they couldn't bring you weed if they get caught. GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which run the whole state, might search the parking lot when they come in, but they could bring packs of cigarettes. So she bringing me 5 packs every time she bring them, and every cigarette you making $150 because you're gonna get 6 packets of $25. So I'm getting 20 cigarettes for $5, $10, but I'm making $120, $50 off each cigarette because I'm making packages, $25. So you figure it out. So one day we was in the dorm, so I got her to open up all the dorms, which were usually closed, turn on the phones, turn on the TVs, and she say, Melvin, just spread that shit out so they don't get jealous and tell on you. So I say, well, treat these niggas. So I had that going on. Because anybody been to Jackson, right when you go through the gym, from getting processed, stripped, butt naked, butt sprayed, crack your ass, take your picture, fill out this, oh, that shit's a process. You ready to go. It's a dorm area right there, 4 dorms. So anyway, I got my niggas from Macon, they crippin'. And like I said, ain't that many of us. We got a Mexican where we got knives that we don't have made because you wear cotton to where you zip it in here when you walk in the middle, the detector don't take you. And when you put it on your wrist, it got a notch on it, so when you get down, it don't go nowhere. And this how it came in handy with me. So anyway, we over here, all the dorms open, and we gambling, and took up to me and say, you got any cigarettes? I said, no, none for sale. That's what I told them. So they walk off, so now me and my niggas, then we smoking, and they come back and walk up to me and say, I thought you said you didn't have any cigarettes. And I say, well, I didn't have none for sale, because believe it or not, them niggas in Georgia prisons, I don't give a fuck about them in prison. So anyway, they say, I thought you said you didn't have no cigarettes. And I say, bro, I didn't even say bro, I just said basically, I just told you I didn't have none for sale. These are personal. So then these motherfuckers holler out, you lucky you kind of old, else we'll kick your ass. So I said, okay, wait right here. And it's winter because in Georgia prisons, you only get your coats. They so poor, they'll give you a coat with your prison number on it, and they're gonna give you some boots that you wear. That's it. So now, I got this winter. So I go back, and they give you a sweatshirt. They give you a sweatshirt and a coat. So I go put on the sweatshirt, because it's long sleeve, and I tie 2 nines on each, one on this wrist, one on this wrist, and I got them tucked inside. So now I don't put on my boots, and everybody in the dorm saying, go, what's going on? I say, watch this show I'm finna put on. Follow me. And I say, I got this. So I go back, they standing in the bathroom like this, and they get standing like this, and they didn't think I was coming back. So I walk up, so they inside, I'm outside, so if they gotta leave, they got to come through me. So I walk up and I say, I'm back. And so I say, now what's going on? I say, I fuck with motherfucking Mexicans and fight y'all asses all day in California prison. Nigga, this right up my motherfucking alley. I say, I will fuck y'all off, motherfuckers. So then they went to talk, we didn't mean no harm. I say, nigga, we can turn around to where I can have to walk through y'all to get out, niggas. And they backed up. And then the next day, the niggas snitched on me, and they rolled me up. I went to the hole. I went to the hole 11 times. By the time I left that prison, all the police say, you've been the worst inmate we ever seen at your age in my motherfucking life. True story. Tell you another story how corrupt this shit is, since you want to spill stories. One day, GBI come in on a surprise cell search. I'm talking to a police out of Chicago. He a gangster disciple, a real one. And I got a knife on me. Remember I told you I keep them right here. So you know I ain't lying. I got one right here. But they don't surprise us. I can't get rid of them. I handed it to him. Told him give it to me when they through searching on my mama. I got it back. It's a corrupt prison in Georgia, but it's not fashionable to be a Crip. But I promise you, ask anybody about the GBIs. They're state troopers. Most of them, particularly I was in Macomb State Prison. I was paroled from Calhoun. I went to Jackson. I stayed 2 years in Gwinnett County. I've been to Fulton. I stayed in Decatur. All up in there. I used to fuck with Gucci Man. When he called his case, he was standing across the street from Grady Hospital. True story of what Gucci Man did. He had went to jail, and he had the yellow Ferrari then. He had went for doing something to a girl. So anyway, I find out he had a partner, a GD named Murder Montana, a real one, over at the place across from Grady. We in Atlanta. So this is my first time over there, and had 3 dudes that were going on too for Gucci while he was in jail, touring the South and shit. Might have ended up being the Amigos. I know one of them name was Steve. They had a flat upstairs. So anyway, I didn't know Georgia was an open carry state, right? And OG say, hey man, you know this open carry state. What that mean? That mean you can carry a gun legally. I said, you telling me they can carry a gun? Anybody that can own one? He said, yeah. I said, I need a pistol. Ain't no way I'm gonna be in a city where niggas can carry a gun legal, and I ain't gonna have one. And this when I learned this, about a store called Rubex or something, it end with an X. And he say, meet me around at the store. And they turned around and brought me some 38, some pistols. And that's how I learned, but that was a story when Gucci Man had got in that shit. So I had been down in Atlanta. I had been going back to Stone Mountain. That's where they served the 4th of July for the states. We got ran out back in 1992. Chicago, I stayed in Milwaukee when Jeffrey Dahmer was doing the killing. I've been staying in Chicago. I stayed in Washington, D.C., one of the most unique cities that it was. And, we was talking about D.C. earlier, about the black people when you said who you said.
The DC Blacks?
Yeah, the DC Blacks. In 1999, 2000, I had a radio show out there called the Mo Better Band Blues, and I was touring all the black colleges. Had another motherfucker selling Oxycontin, the school president at Howard. We getting money out there, but I'm playing both sides of the fence. And I stayed on East Capitol in Benton. That's southeast Georgia, right at the borderline, Prince George County, and Benton Road. That's where I stayed at. That's the southeast, the roughest side. Then when you go northeast, northwest, you're going toward the White House, the Pentagon, and Crystal City. I was down there for the DC sniper when he was killing. But in 2000, I was down there when it wasn't really fashionable to be down and be somebody from Los Angeles committing crimes, and this is why. Because of the federal prison system back then, anything you do in Washington, D.C. was a federal case, and they usually teamed up with the St. Louis bank robbers to where they held a monopoly in the federal prison. So when very few people from Los Angeles or any other state were as deep as the connection of St. Louis and Washington, D.C. So being from Los Angeles, the last thing, when we first started going there, my partner was on federal parole for robbing the jewelry store in Bethesda, where they had robbed him for over $1 million worth of jewelry. That's why we were there. So he was on federal parole for a jewelry heist, and that's why we was there. But one of the first things he told me the first time I ever went to Washington, D.C. was, don't go to jail. Because now you're going to go to Lorton, and now you're going to be in jail, the equivalent of being a black at a Ku Klux Klan meeting. That's how deep it goes between the hatred from being from L.A. in the federal system. So they're going to try to jack you, take your shoes. So Washington, D.C. is a spot where you don't want to go to jail. And back in them days, when you go there, the Crips, the LA car, we ain't gonna segregate it, they wasn't as deep as the St. Louis car, and there was a vicious war going on. And Clarence Hoover, an original Crip that's 71 years old, started setting the standard and the pace that the Crips and the Bloods unite to fight against these other organizations, prison gangs, as we talked about before. And that was what's happening in D.C. It was all black. A lot of people asked me on numerous interviews, Melvin, if you had a choice of cities that you would live in, it would be Washington, D.C. When Marion Barry was out there as the mayor. In fact, I work for the sitting mayor now on a program called Credible Messengers, where she's the mayor. Look up Muriel Rose. She's the former of the Credible Messengers, where they're getting out $175 million in Los Angeles to combat for public safety, restorative justice, and redefining the community. While we talking, that's another project I'm on. I'm a certified Credible Messenger, and some of the members are King Tone, Sean Stevenson from the Black Philly Mob, I told him Marvin, Rudy that runs a camp where we would mix martial arts, that used to be the head. It's a lot of old guys that been in big stuff, and it's a very prestigious organization. They talk at the New York School of Law. They're based in Washington, D.C. They had a juvenile, because while we're talking about laws, did you know that in Washington, D.C., when the juveniles go to jail, they're shipped out to another state at the tune of $200,000 to $500,000 a head. So what King Tone and a dude named, he was the director, Clinton Lacey, who used to run, what's that jail in New York that they go to?
Rikers Island?
He ran that. That's how he got King Tone with him, because I guess something was happening at Rikers Island where one of his family members was in danger, and King Tone was in there while being held on federal charges up under being the leader of Latin King. So they built the juvenile hall that the kids would not have to go out of state. And then they fought for the right to keep them here. Instead of calling them officers, they called them a different name. And so we did that. I've been spoken. This is another thing we do that you don't hear about. So we were in the minstrel and stopping the youth where we did a tour there, a 3-day tour. We went to the tri-states, Washington, D.C., New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. Spoke to all the intervention programs that work with elected officials. And so we was proud of that we did that in Washington, D.C. And you know what was so sad? I cried after we went there because they only had like 12 people. But 10 of them were black girls. And I thought, how would I like my daughter to be sitting up in here at 13? Then I went to me sitting in there at 13. Because they begged me, don't leave us. And I wrote a book, The New Slave Ship. So I know they're not reading nothing. So I gave each of them a book, and we went and talked. We ate with them, but it was sad that all the kids in there were black youths. Wasn't no whites in there getting transferred for federal cases. So I'm proud of that. That's something else we did that a lot of people don't know. So these are the things we do when the camera's not around, our boots to the ground.
That's right, that's right. And there you have it, y'all. Just some words of wisdom, a little bit more about Melvin Farmer that some of you may not have seen on other channels. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
All right, young man. I hope my words reach out to y'all. Well, we ain't trying to get in nobody's lane. I'm just trying to tell everybody, you know, we got a chance to change the communities if we go on the right path. And just be humble, man. Just be humble. And, you know, tomorrow's not promised. And yesterday's nothing good about them. And let's just do what we do, man. One love, one life. And we out.
And we out.
Now let's listen.